Alright, hello guys, and welcome to our weekly forecast from November 17th until November 24th. We're going to go over our precipitation forecast, temperature forecast, and overall forecast. But before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to check out the links in the description for our social medias. Alright, let's get right into things. We're looking at last week's temperature forecast. Again, as always, make a mental memory of this one. Try to pay attention, and I'm going to show you what actually happened right now. And as you can see, it's a really similar look. I think I should have extended the dark blue down through coastal Texas, but that's the only complaint I have about this one. I think it's perfect outside of that. But let me know what you thought in the comments down below. You can rewind and relook at them and stuff, and just let me know how the accuracy is doing. I can always improve, everybody can always improve on everything. So let me know what you thought. Now, let's get into your precipitation forecast for this week. And as you can see, there's 3 different areas of above average precipitation. One up there for Montana, one up there for New England, and then one there for the 4 corner states through some of the southeast and Gulf states, the northern regions of those states, that is. And we even have a second shade of green here for Arizona, where we're going to be dealing with a bit of precipitation, to say the least. It doesn't take a lot to bring you guys above your average for precipitation, but we are going to be looking at a noticeable amount of precipitation for those areas. Now, we're about to get into the many areas that are expecting to see below average precipitation and drier than normal conditions, and then just after that, we're going to get into our temperature forecast. Alright, so as you can see, there's 3 different areas of below average precipitation as well. One up there for the Northwest, including some of the Central Rockies. One up there for the Midwest from Nebraska through the Dakotas and Minnesota. And then one there that extends from some of those Great Lakes states and then down through into the Gulf states and the Southeast states as well. As we add our second shade of brown here, you can see that the Pacific Northwest is expecting to have, once again, another very dry week from Montana down through Washington down through northern California, as well as a little bit of a sliver there in Idaho as well. We even have a third shade of brown there for portions of California, Oregon, and Washington, where we're expecting to be extremely dry comparatively to normal. And this is the second week in a row, I believe, or maybe even the third, that we've had to break out this third shade of dry conditions for this specific region, because they've been dealing with many dry weeks in a row. And you guys, from what I can tell, seem to go through periods of very dry conditions and then periods of very wet conditions, and that ends up giving you guys some sort of average amount of precipitation, but it seems to be off and on for you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how it seems to be. Very long periods of above average and then very long periods of below average precipitation. Alright, now we're about to get into your very exciting temperature forecast, where we're expecting big time cold in some of the eastern regions of the United States, and then still some warmth for the western United States. Alright, let's show you those warm conditions first off. Out there for California, through the 4 corner states, and then up through portions of the Midwest, as well as the northwestern United States, and a little bit of Texas, we're expecting slightly above average temperatures here. It's a big area of above average temperatures, and it's extending a little bit further east than it was last week, but for the most part, everything's positioned in similar areas to where it was last week and some of the weeks prior. So we're staying with this November pattern that's been locked in for that first half, and we're sticking with it through, I guess this is going to end up being 3/4 of the month after this week is all said and done. Pretty consistent November if you ask me. Now let's add our second shade of orange, and this is going to be the last shade of orange, that is. Through California, Nevada, and into portions of Utah, we have moderately above average temperatures for this region. Not necessarily as warm as it has been in prior weeks. We were even into, we had a big region of that second orange for a lot of the Southwest last week, as you saw. But this week, it's a lot slimmer, so it's going to be a little bit less noticeable, the warmth throughout these areas this week, and a little bit less widespread. Let's get started with your below average temperatures though, and you can see some of these regions out there to the east of Wisconsin, Illinois, and Mississippi and Louisiana. We're expecting below average temperatures here throughout all of these light blue regions. And when you're in this light blue shade, it's not going to be too noticeable for the most part. But as we add our second shade of blue, this is where it's going to be a lot more noticeable than the surrounding regions from Chicago eastward through Detroit, Cleveland, and into some of those upstate New York and northern New England regions. This is where we're expecting a noticeable amount of cold, and where the heart of the cold is going to be throughout this upcoming week. Now let's get into your very exciting overall forecast where we have 3 different snowstorms I'm expecting to be potentially happening this upcoming week, and I'm going to tell you guys all about those. Alright, so our first one here is the one that I've already mentioned in, I think it was either yesterday's forecast or the one before it, but I mentioned that we're expecting a wintry storm for New England and upstate New York. This is going to be a big mixed precipitation event. It's going to be icy, sleety, and snowy in some regions. It's going to make a very difficult forecast, and I'm sure nobody's going to get this one exactly right. It's going to be a very, very difficult one to forecast, but those are some of my favorite ones because they push us to our limits and really test our forecasting ability. So I love storms like this because they really help us improve in what we do. Now, this storm, again, as I said, is going to start out as rain, freezing rain, sleet, and even snow for some regions. But for the most part, I expect most of the wintry precipitation to be in this pink region here, and it is associated with our current nor'easter that is located on the East Coast. Now, for that second special note, this is going to be from the 20th through the 22nd. That one was for the 18th through the 20th, so tomorrow through the 20th. But this one's going to be from the 20th through the 22nd, so we don't even get 1 day's break, and this one's already starting. It's going to start out as a clipper, and we're also getting moisture down there in the Four Corner states. These two systems look to combine and bring snow to some of the mountainous regions of those Four Corner states, as well as pretty widespread amounts of snow from Montana through the Dakotas and up back through Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. This is going to be a very interesting setup, and again, I'll probably have to make a separate video specifically for this storm at some point during the next few days. And for your third and final special note forecast, we have another winter storm possible for the Northeast and some of those Great Lakes regions from the 22nd through the 24th, again, starting just as that second one ends. So we're going to have back-to-back potential winter storms here. Very action-packed week. And I mentioned that I thought this November was going to be one of the more active ones in recent history as far as winter storms. And this one has not disappointed as far as winter storms. I mean, constant winter storms going on for multiple regions. So very, very exciting November this has been. Not all Novembers are like this. Some Novembers we have minimal amounts of snow, and this one is just storm after storm after storm. If this pattern continues to happen throughout this winter, it's going to be a very exciting winter for a lot of people. Speaking of this winter, we're going to get into some of my analogs. I wanted to show this thing that I posted on my Twitter. I'm going to show you guys this November compared to November of 2014, and it's going to show some very, very interesting results. As you can see, this is this year's November so far. This is the 1st through the 14th. This lags behind a little bit with, the days that we've been able to figure out here. So we have a few days that are missing from this. But for the most part, this does look similar to what we'll end up having based on the forecast for the rest of November. You can see pretty good warm in the west, but the most interesting thing is where this heart of the cold is located. Right along the Mississippi River up through into Chicago, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. That's where the heart of the cold is located, in through Michigan and a little bit of the Dakotas there as well, with cold pretty widespread from Texas, Montana eastward, as well as the East Coast, with the exception of Florida being a little bit warm. Now, here's where things get interesting. I'm about to switch, as always, make a mental memory of this one. Let's take a look at November of 2014, and you can see it's basically the same story. Now, this one obviously goes from the 1st through the 30th of November. That's the difference. But so far, it looked extremely similar, almost the same, especially with where that heart of the cold is located, from the Mississippi River up through into Chicago, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Dakotas. And it's similar in its intensity as well. Very, very interesting stuff here, because 2014 to 2015, which would be November of 2014, would be the November before the winter of 2014 to 2015, was my number one analog when making my winter forecast. So to see November look so similar to that November is very, very interesting and adds faith to my forecast. It makes me even more confident in what I'm forecasting for this winter. That 2014 to 2015 is a very, very good analog for this winter because things are shaping up very, very similar to how they did, and all the sea surface temperatures look very similar as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, be sure to share this with your friends and family over social medias, including Facebook, whether you message them or post it. I don't care. Just share it with people that you think will find it interesting and informative. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.